In the shadows of Europe's bloodiest centuries, when the smoke of war blackened the skies and kings gambled with lives on muddy battlefields, there rode a terror cloaked in black. Not knights, not nobles, but mercenaries. Hardened, brutal, and loyal only to gold. They were called the Black Riders, the most feared, most sought-after warriors money could buy. Whispers of their deeds traveled faster than armies. Their presence on the battlefield often meant only one thing: someone was about to die. But who were these men? Where did they come from? And why did even the mightiest kings bend knee to secure their blades? Long before the modern concept of standing armies, medieval Europe relied on feudal levies and knightly obligations to fill its ranks. But as warfare became more protracted, more brutal, and more professional, the old system began to collapse under its own weight. From this chaos emerged a new breed of warrior, not bound by oath or nation, but by contract. These were the mercenaries. And among them, none were more enigmatic or deadly than the Black Riders. The term Black Riders doesn't refer to a single company or ethnicity, but to a class of mounted mercenaries that dominated warfare from the late 15th to early 17th centuries. Clad in blackened armor or dark garb, often to strike psychological fear, these men became infamous across the Holy Roman Empire, the Low Countries, and even the Italian city-states. They were particularly associated with the Schwarzreiter, or Black Riders, of the German Lanzelite mercenary cavalry, that would come to redefine early modern European combat. The Schwarzreiter were pioneers of reiterate tactics, combining the mobility of cavalry with the firepower of pistols. As historian David Parrott notes, in The Business of War, Military Enterprise and Military Revolution in Early Modern Europe, these men were at the forefront of military innovation. They represented not just a tactical shift, but a professionalization of violence. Mercenary companies became businesses, and the Black Riders were their most valuable assets. Armed with wheelock pistols, short swords, and steel breastplates, they embraced the Caracola New Cavalry maneuver, where mounted troops approached, discharged pistols, and wheeled away to reload, while the next line advanced. Though later criticized for its inefficiency, in its time, it was revolutionary, especially when contrasted against the medieval lance charge. And no one did it better than the Black Riders? But why black? Why not red, or steel, or gold? The color was more than a stylet, it was a message. Black signified death, struck fear. A Black Rider didn't just kill you. He broke morale before the first shot was fired. The 16th century German chronicler Georg Kahler wrote that. The appearance of black cavalry caused whole militias to dissolve before battle had even begun. Their look was a weapon in itself. Their popularity and price soared during the wars of religion, particularly the 30 Years' War, where factions across Europe fought not only over theology, but territory, pride, and survival. Kings, electors, and generals all knew the value of a few hundred experienced Black Riders. Their discipline, firepower, and battlefield reliability often tipped the scales of entire engagements. During the 1568 to 1648 80 Years' War between Spain and the Dutch Republic, Black Rider contingents were found in both armies at different times, hired and rehired by opposing sides. One of the most notorious captains of these mercenaries was Gietz von Berlichingen, known as Gietz of the Iron Hand. Though not exclusively a Black Rider, he embodied the spirit of mercenary autonomy. After losing his right hand in battle, he had it replaced with a mechanical iron prosthesis and returned to war. In his autobiography, he recounted countless contracts, betrayals, and double-crossings avoidance of the chaotic world the Black Riders thrived in. "I served no master for long," he wrote, "but gold never rusted, and neither did my sword." The reliance on mercenaries like the Black Riders wasn't without cost. Financially, they drained kingdoms. Strategically, they posed risks. They could and often did switch sides, but no one doubted their effectiveness. Their legacy is one of violence and pragmatism. As military historian Michael Mallett writes in Mercenaries and Their Masters, the Black Riders did not fight for causes. They fought for coin. But in doing so, they shaped the very fabric of modern warfare. The rise of these mercenaries also forced changes in military doctrine. Traditional noble cavalry was increasingly seen as outdated. The precision, firepower, and professionalism of the Black Riders demanded new tactics. As the Renaissance bloomed, so too did a recognition that warfare was no longer about honor. It was about logistics, payment, and ruthlessness. Let's take a moment here and reflect on how the image of the medieval warrior changed. If you're enjoying this deep dive into forgotten military history, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're constantly uncovering stories that textbooks skip: stories of power, betrayal, and the warriors who shaped history not with ideals, but with iron. Hit that like button, drop a comment below, and join us as we continue exploring the shadows of Europe's past. Let's continue with the darker truth of mercenary warfare, its aftermath. The same traits that made the Black Riders valuable in war made them dangerous in peace. Unemployed and heavily armed, many turned to banditry, extortion, or even rebellion. The Franzberg Landsknecht, another class of German mercenaries often allied with Black Riders, famously sacked Rome in 1527, not out of hatred for the church, but because their pay had run dry. Rome, a city of culture and splendor, was reduced to ash by men who had once fought under imperial banners. The repeated reliance on such forces gave birth to a troubling reality. Mercenaries became a political force. Rulers needed them, feared them, and negotiated with them as they would rival states. Historian Geoffrey Parker, in his book Global Crisis, argued that mercenary captains wielded power equal to princes in some regions, and their loyalty was never to crown or cross but to currency. The Black Riders were at the center of this mercenary evolution. By the late 17th century, changes in military structure and state centralization began to phase out the mercenary model. National armies emerged. The idea of the citizen soldier gained traction. Yet, the legend of the Black Riders lingered. Their tactics lived on in cavalry doctrine. Their image, the black-clad killer loyal to no flag, evolved into modern representations of special forces, private military contractors, and warlords. Even in pop culture, echoes of the Black Riders remain. From Tolkien's Ringwraiths, ghostly black horsemen who inspired terror, to gritty video game mercenaries, the archetype of the shadowy elite warrior can be traced back to these historical figures: fearsome, professional, unstoppable. But let us be clear, the Black Riders were not heroes. They were not defenders of the weak. They were instrument stools, wielded by those with the silver to pay. And yet, in a world as fractured, bloody, and merciless as 16th century Europe, maybe that was exactly what made them so essential. Their lives were forged in fire and finished in shadows. They were loyal only to coin, but their presence shaped battles and altered the fate of kingdoms. Few today remember their names, but when black horses thundered across war-torn fields, even the bravest trembled. And perhaps that, more than anything, explains why they were the most sought-after mercenaries in Europe.